No matter where you are in the world, CSL Dallas is here as your spiritual home. As a reminder, every day is an opportunity for a transformation, spiritual deepening, and heart to heart connection, no matter what's going on. And every day we can learn and practice something important that can make a difference in our lives and around the globe. So join us for amazing music and to learn more about how we can take these spiritual principles out into the real world. All right, so let's get ready for today's celebration by putting your hands together for the CSL Dallas music team.
Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This beautiful, this beautiful, this beautiful day. This beautiful, this beautiful, this beautiful day. Thank you for my friends, Spirit. Thank you for my friends. Thank you for my friends, Spirit. Thank you for my friends. My wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful friend. My wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful friend. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. This healing, this healing, this healing day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. Thank you for this day, Spirit. Thank you for this day. This beautiful, this beautiful, this beautiful day. This beautiful, this beautiful, this beautiful day. Thank you for my friends, Spirit. Thank you for my friends. Thank you for my friends, Spirit. Thank you for my friends. My wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful friend. My wonderful, my wonderful, my wonderful friend. Hey, we say thank you. 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 Oh, thank you. Thank you. Hey, thank you. Thank you. Say thank you. Thank you. Say thank you. Thank you.
All right. Good morning, CSL. How are you doing today? Doing good? Good. Glad to hear it. Let's get into the groove of things. I'm Bakari Issa. I'll be your platform assistant for today. And let's get into it. Today, we'll read our statement together. We are radically inclusive, spiritually progressive, transforming lives. And so it is. All right. Are you a musician, singer, poet, or dancer? Have you wanted to perform in front of others but feel a little too nervous? On Friday, August 11th, our open mic night is your opportunity to experience the joy of jamming with friends at CSO. Come to perform or to support performers or both. This open mic night is a safe place to sing, dance, or read poetry as we cherish memories, renew connections, and leave feelings uplifted and inspired. Bring your friends and family, as all ages are welcome. Register at csldallas.org/events. Remember, this Thursday night is our free information meeting to learn more about Spirit Tours in 2024. See the flyers in the back of the sanctuary for the Zoom link or to join or register via the link in chat.
Great. I really wanted to take a moment to really invite you to come on Sacred Travel with us, with CSL Dallas. For those of you who've been around for 10 years, you know we do this on a regular basis, and of course it all came to a halt over the pandemic. But if you're somebody who loves to combine spirituality, spiritual retreat, and worldwide travel, you want to come with us. We have people who've gone on these trips and they have formed lifelong friendships, deep spiritual connections, and we've explored the spirituality of many different cultures. And so we're going to Costa Rica in January. And we're going to Japan in October. We don't normally do two trips in the same year, but we wanted to offer both of them at the same time. One of them is closer, it's shorter, it's a little less expensive, and the other one is further away, it's a little more expensive, it's a little longer. And so that we didn't want to put out one and then all of a sudden have the other one come out and people say, well, wait, I didn't know about that. Right? So with both of them going on, we really want you to travel with us. If you are part of our community, you don't have to be a member if you're online with us. If you want to travel with us with really deep sacred experiences and really build that community, there's nothing better than to go with us on these trips. So again, Thursday night, there is a Zoom call. We'll be talking about both of them. I will tell you, they're both already half full. And so we don't want you to miss out. So please come to the information meeting or just register or ask me any questions. Thanks.
Also, just kind of side note, if y'all couldn't tell, I know I'm pretty tall and my voice is a little deep, but I am a teenager. So I just came back from the CSL teen camp, and if y'all want to also send your kids on not a vacation, but a trip, a spiritual trip. There is a teen camp. We do have a teen camp. Teens are in Joy Village. I came from Joy Village, and I volunteer to be up here every fourth Sunday. So if y'all are interested in also sending your kids on an Epiphany Field spiritual journey, I do encourage you to let them go to Joy Village and talk to our practitioners. Thank you. Okay. Hi, Mom. We are thrilled that Lumen Education is a CSL Dallas nonprofit partner. Thanks to those who generously donate to CSL Dallas, we're able to pay that generosity forward with donation of $7,392 to support this groundbreaking Montessori school. Yes. Terry Ford, founder and director of Lumen Education, is here to tell us a bit more about the transformative work they have been doing this with young children and parents for over 40 years. You can also talk with her and learn more in Pankey Hall after today's celebration. Come on up.
Good morning. I am here to celebrate and thank you from the bottom of my heart for the generosity and support that you're giving our work. Lumen was born 45 years ago when a group of parents and 2 teachers, I was one of those teachers, saw the children in our community struggling. They were falling through the cracks. They were falling behind academically. They were discouraged. And just like here at the Center for Spiritual Living, parents were determined to do something about it, not just talk, but to actually take action. We were convinced that when you start young and involve parents, that you can break that cycle of poverty and children from low-income neighborhoods failing in school. So those parents searched a junkyard for materials to build tables. They found children's books in a dumpster. They did lots of volunteer work that allowed us to use donated space. All right, so that space was next door to a methadone clinic, so it was donated for a reason, but it was donated space. And 3 donations totaling $1,750 to open our school in the fall of 1978 with 8 children. Here we are 45 years later. We've grown from that class of 8 children to serving more than 500 children each year at 2 campuses, one in Deep East Dallas and the other near Love Field Airport. We serve children from pregnancy to age 9, doing 2 things: Montessori home visits from pregnancy to age 3 and Montessori classes from ages 1 to 9. So will y'all allow me to brag about Lumen for just a moment? Lumen was the very first in Dallas to offer Montessori to children regardless of income or academic ability. The first in Dallas to offer pregnancy to age 3 home visiting. The first in Texas to open a Montessori public charter school, and the first in Texas to open a Montessori early Head Start program. Just last year, Southern Methodist University did research documenting Lumen's impact. According to SMU data, Lumen has served more than 4,000 children from primarily low-income families. SMU research shows that after children leave our home visiting program, they outperform other children in math as 4-year-olds. SMU also found that students in Lumen's overall program, which ends at 3rd grade, outperform a matched sample of other students in 5th grade in reading, math, and science. But you know as well as I do that the most important things are above and beyond academics. They're the emotional grounding, the social learning, and the executive function skills that are so important to our children as they grow. So to wrap up my presentation, I want to tell you a story and then invite you to come volunteer. Once upon a time, a long, long time ago, in fact, 30 years ago, there was a little 3-year-old boy named Jacob who was being raised by his grandparents. Now, Jacob was uncontrollable. He walked into that classroom and started bouncing off the walls and knocked materials off the shelf and bumped into kids. The teacher was at her rope's end. She tried everything she could think of. She talked to Jacob's grandparents. She talked to her colleagues to get ideas about what she could do. Nothing worked until at last she figured out that Jacob was fascinated by numbers. By the time Jacob was 4 years old, he was figuring out the square of a number and the cube of a number. When he was 5 years old, I'd walk through the classroom and see him deeply engrossed in figuring out a long division problem. This is kindergarten. All the other kids in the class looked up to Jacob, and when they needed help with a math problem, that's who they turned to. So fast forward, a quarter of a century later, it was just 2 months ago, and I was attending Lumen's 3rd grade graduation ceremony. Everyone's so happy and proud. And after the ceremony, an elderly man came up to me and he said, "Do you remember me? I was there every single parent work day. For years and years ago I was there. You could always count on me." And I brought with me my grandson, Jacob. So I turned to look at Jacob. Jacob was 33 years old, big broad-shouldered guy, big grin on his face. And I said, "Jacob," I gave him a great big hug. "I remember you so well. You loved math." "I can't believe you remember that," he said. He said, "When I got out of high school, I went straight into the armed forces. I've been in the Air Force for years, and I'm just now out, and they are paying my full way to college." He said, "I have enrolled at University of North Texas, and I am majoring in math." So I'm here to thank you today because you make it possible for children who all too often would fail in school to find their passion for learning. I want you to know that the track record we have of kids graduating from high school long after they leave us in 3rd grade at a rate of 96%, 89% of those kids going on to college is made possible because of support from people like you. So I want to encourage you to come see me in Panicky Hall after the service, and I'll be glad to answer any questions. I want to encourage you to talk to Molly, who is a leader here, as well as a leader of our home visiting program. Kyle and Jimmy Galbraith are also champions of our work and wonderful supporters. I know Sherry Wood is here today, and I know her from way back in the beginning years. So please talk to members of your congregation who are or have been part of Lumen, and please know that all of us at Lumen are so very, very grateful for your support. Thank you.
It's all right.
All good.
Once again, she will be around outside in Panicky Hall after the service, so please give her any inquiries you have. Okay. So whether you're joining us for the first time or you've been connected with us for years, welcome. However you found us today, in person or online, we'd love to stay in touch with you. Stay in the know by following us on social media, leave us a Google review, and sign up for our weekly newsletter and inspirational texts. By filling out a Connect card from the link in the chat online or at the welcome table on campus, stay connected to all that's happening at CSL Dallas. Now let's settle into this morning with our music team, Candy, Cleo, and Jerry. And let's center ourselves with our practitioner, Dr. Tracy, as we go within.
I am the heart, I am the hands, I am the voice of spirit on earth, and who I am, and all I do is a blessing to the world. You are the heart, you are the hands, you are the voice of spirit on earth, and who you are, and all you do is a blessing to the world. We are the heart, we are the hands, we are the voice of spirit on earth, and who we are, and all we do is a blessing to the world.
Please join me by taking a deep breath and going within to that central place within each one of us that is the connection. Remembering that there's only one source of all life, and we get to be the heart, the hands, the voice of that one. What a blessing it is to be able to be a blessing in this world. And as we come together this morning, this is the opportunity for us to refresh, renew, remind ourselves that the blessing of life is what gives us the opportunity to be a blessing in the world with the people we come into contact with, as well as for ourselves. We get to today to together remember that now in this time that we are living in, it is not the time to check our intelligence and leave it at the door. Now is the time to bring the capital I intelligence, the intelligence of spirit itself, into everything that we do, everything that we say, everything that we believe. Now is the time. And we are the people. We are the voice of spirit in the world. And if this resonates with you and you are ready to be the heart and the hands and the voice of spirit in your life and in the life of all of global humanity, then I invite you to take a breath, smile, and affirm it with me by saying Ashe, Aho, Amen, Amen. And so it is.
Spirit on earth, and who we are, and all we do is a blessing to the world. You're a blessing to the world. You're a blessing to the world. I'm a blessing to the world. I am all that I am. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3. Turn up. It's just like this. I am, you are, we are, we are, we are. Oh yeah, oh yeah. Here we go, right here. Sing, y'all. I am all that I am. I am love made flesh and God unfolding. I am all that I am. I am life itself, forever growing. All that is good, all that is glorious, all that is all I am, all that I am. I am 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 living flesh and God unfolding. I am all that I am. I am life itself, forever growing. All that is good, all that is glorious, all that is whole. I am all that I am. All that I am. I am all that I am. I am. Come on, come on. I am all that I am. I am love made flesh and God unfolding. I am all that I am. I am life itself, forever growing. All that is good, all that is glorious, all that is whole. I am all that I am. 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 And so it is. Thank you, y'all. So this song was released in 1957 from the musical South Pacific. And if you know it, sing along. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Yeah. You've got to be taught to hate and fear. You've got to be taught year after year. It's got to be drummed in your dear little ear. You've got to be carefully taught. You've got to be taught to be afraid of people whose eyes are differently made and people whose skin is a different shade. You've got to be carefully taught. You've got to be taught before it's too late, before you are 6 and 7 and 8, to hate all the people your relatives hate. You've got to be carefully taught. You gotta be carefully taught. That's Brad. Hey, you gotta be taught before it's too late to hate all the people your relatives hate. Before you are 6 and 7 and 8, you gotta be carefully taught. But hate is not innate. And maybe it's not too late to unteach what shouldn't be taught. Thank you very much.
Yay! Thank you. Our beloved Candy makes a juxtaposition, doesn't it? Ooh, man, the words and the music, right? Wow. Did you feel it? Like, what? To have that message so powerfully in such a happy lyrical song. Right? Yeah. And how often we are confused by how things are said, how they're portrayed, how they're embedded in music or in speeches or in things that make us go, wait. Does that make sense? Is there congruency here? What do I think about this? One of the things that I love the most about the science of mind is I actually remember my very first teacher say, when you come into my classroom, don't check your intelligence at the door. This stuff should make sense in some form or fashion, which was, needless to say, very different than my experience in my early formative years in catechism. I spent numerous Sundays out in the hallway because I had questions. I had questions that I was listening to these things and I was listening to the way that they were portrayed or talked about. And they, and some of them are in these really like amazing stories and I'm like right on the edge of my seat about how the story ends. And then, wait, the story and the message, I don't know. And then I would ask a question and get sent out into the hallway. So, yeah, and so, well, I already did this morning, so might as well continue on with how I began today, and that is, I'm going to let you into the brain of Petra. This may or may not be a good place to be, I don't know, but it's important to me, I think it's important that we think about what we're thinking about. That we pay attention to how we talk about things, how we language things, and we pay attention to the messages that are coming to us that either we are accepting or we are parroting or we are having a visceral reaction to, which many of us have had in our childhood and in our formative years as we have grown into someone who is seeking a spiritual reality that makes sense, that resonates in a new way to who we are. And I remember when I first got into the science mind, again, my teacher saying, we're not here to tell you what to think, we're here to teach you how to think. Okay? How to think. Well, it's really not that different than the Buddhist teaching of mindfulness. It's basically paying attention. Paying attention. Paying attention to what comes in, paying attention to what I think about it, what I say about it, how I engage with it, how I feel about it, and then paying attention to what comes back out. Paying attention. Noticing. Questioning. Examining. Sensing and feeling. How does this resonate? So when I began to really think about our spirituality, right, and I kept using the word, it has to make sense to me. And what I mean by make sense to me, that is, do you notice that I don't say it has to make sense to me, I say it has to make sense to me. Okay, so for me, that is the wholeness. I don't want to check my intelligence at the door, but I also don't want to leave my heart and my body out. And I have a concern that you've all heard people talk about the dumbing down of our classes, the dumbing down of our textbooks, the dumbing down of the way journalism is done today, the dumbing down of everything, right, and the reducing it to sound bites, and what is it, the 1 minute, Instagram post. Not only are we less willing to think things through, but we're less willing to take the time to think them through. And yet, that's what it means in the science of mind when we say we want to teach you how to think, not what to think, because it has to actually resonate and make sense. There has to be an alignment of our system. Otherwise, we're either just blindly believing something because somebody said it, or potentially having an emotional knee-jerk reaction to it, or we'd just rather go out and play or do something, and we don't, because we don't want to think about it at all, because it's hard work to think about stuff. But I think, as I have said last week and continue to affirm over and over and over again, that the very things that we've learned how to do in our spirituality are the very things that we need to bring to the world, we need to bring to the table, we need to bring to our own understanding of what our contribution is to life and how we are to navigate not just the challenges of our world, but the way in which our discourse has become so uncivil, thoughtless, and basically, we've gotten really good at what Isaac Saul calls in his newsletter, which I love, which is called Tangle, he calls bad arguments. And we use these in our own life. So when we think about thinking about something, right, I often use the term critical thinking. And what I mean by critical thinking is that we explore it, we learn more about it, we think about different viewpoints, we look at the basis of the idea, we weigh it out. Okay, starting to, okay, might be something here, it's interesting. So then we look for evidence. And for those of you who have taken spiritual mind treatment classes from me or have been in classes with me, I will remind you that one of the ways we look for evidence about spiritual truths is we look for it in nature, right? We see abundance in nature, we see flow in nature, we see the way in which the universe operates from seed to plant in nature. And so we look for evidence of spiritual truths so that we can say, this is not just an idea, but I can actually see it in the world. I can actually see it played out. We might also examine context, history, who the speaker is, and who the authority is. Right? We look at this when we think about our background, we think about the patterns that were laid down in our childhood, we think about the religions that we've grown up in, or the things that we've been taught, and we examine this context. Taking things out of context can easily cause us to have a very short view, a very small view of some seriously complex things that we are facing in humanity, which is equally true as we are facing in our own lives. The opposite of not having enough prosperity isn't always the simple answer of, oh, I'm just going to focus on abundance. Right? I mean, we've learned this. Sometimes I have a clear understanding. I can see that the world is abundant, the universe is abundant. What's really true is I don't think I deserve it. Right? Or I believe that I have to work hard for it and I don't want to work that hard. Or what do you see? It's not always as simplistic as sometimes the examples we use to help make it understandable, or the way in which we begin to engage in it. We actually want to mature in our ability to do this, to learn how to think about it. And then we follow the argument from a spiritual truth through the reality that we're a part of that into how that is manifesting in our own lives. Or the old idea, the false belief, through how it is showing up in our thoughts and feelings and how it's manifesting in our own lives, right? We want to learn how to follow the argument, to look for the flaws. Is that belief really true? Really, am I as stupid as my family insisted I was? Well, I don't think so. Am I as unavailable or unconscious or unable or fill in the blank as I have come to believe myself to be? Oh, I don't know, maybe not. Not if I'm an individualized expression of the one. You know, every time I say that, every time you say that, we're basically dissing spirit. Right? So we have to follow the argument, look for the flaws. We look for the false beliefs, the hidden ideas, the old ways in which we've learned to take something up, which may actually not be grounded in the spiritual truth we say we believe. And so we look for these false reasonings, we look for the assumptions that we're making, and we begin to separate out sound spiritual thinking from, what do they call it in recovery? Stinking thinking. Right? Right? And sound thinking, right? Not like, oh, I'm an intellectual and I'm going to have a cerebral conversation about this. Okay, could we just set that aside? But sound thinking. Am I really working through this idea about myself from a deeply rooted spiritual place, or am I just have I just got caught in my stinking thinking? Which is, of course, what we're seeking to heal and to shift so that we can think, feel, sense, and act in the world out of our spiritual truth. Because ultimately, we want that to be congruent. We want there to be a congruence all the way through. And we can do it from this way by working on what we're thinking, feeling it, sensing it, and then being it. Or we can work on it the other way around. We can try to behave lovingly, behave, with forgiveness, behave in a way that is speaking truth without attack, right? And we begin to sense that, oh, wow, that's something really important. We feel empowered. We feel like, oh, I'm spirit showing up in the world. And we begin to change our beliefs about ourselves, right? So it can go either direction. But it's paying attention to what's happening. It's paying attention to how this works. Now, I did look up critical thinking. I had no idea that critical thinking was actually like a thing. It actually goes all the way back to the Greeks. And I was like, oh, I did not know that I was like right there with Plato and Socrates. I just thought I made it up. No, I just thought it was like a casual, like, let's think critically about this. This does not mean critique it. This does not mean critical as in negative, right? Critical thinking has been described as the ability to question, to acknowledge and test previously held assumptions. Like, really, am I stupid as my parents seem to think I was? That's what that means. To recognize ambiguity. Maybe it's not just, oh, I'm struggling with my prosperity, I need to think about abundance. Maybe it's something a little bit more. To examine, interpret, evaluate, reason, and reflect. And reflect. To make informed judgments and decisions, to clarify and articulate positions. Critical thinking. Now, we know that critical thinking, right, it's not just the analytical analysis. We understand that we've moved beyond that, right? That was from way back when, right? We've moved beyond that, especially in our spirituality, that we have to think with our whole being. Right? And that I'm not saying that facetiously. We have brain cells in our brain, we have brain cells in our heart, and we have brain cells in our gut. So we think holistically. When all of that is in alignment, then we are thinking with our minds, our heart, our spirit, our soul, and our bodies. And that's what I mean by when we think about things. So we're open to intuition, we feel our emotional response, we ask questions, we ask questions, we ask questions, not just of others, but also of ourselves, but also of others, and then of ourselves, and then of others, right? Like, because we're keeping to, are we clear? Are we really clear? have to find a way to think about these things. How to think about them. Well, one of the things that we really need to do is we need to not be fooled by the way arguments are put together. Now, an argument isn't, I'm going to argue with you about it, right? An argument is the way a topic or a thought or an idea is presented. Think of basically the argument that a lawyer gives in front of a judge or in front of a jury. They're going to say this, and because of this, and because of this, and because of this, and because of this, therefore that, right? That's what essentially an argument is. Quite frankly, it's exactly what we do in the argumentative spiritual mind treatment. It's exactly what we do. And we are not arguing with God or the law or something outside of ourselves. We're actually not arguing even with ourselves. We're showing ourselves a line of reasoning. If spirit is there and all there is, and spirit is this, and I'm a part of that, and I am sourced by that, then I am that too. Therefore, it must show up in my life this way. Do you see? So we're teaching you how to think. We can bring that to these things. So I was so enthralled, just so revealing myself. I was so enthralled with these explanations of arguments that Isaac Saul does in his newsletter, Tangle. People are skeptical about the value of debate because there are so many dishonest ways to have a debate. People aren't so much afraid of no longer omit the fact that these things are happening. And now it's, well, due to climate change, these tornadoes are bigger. Due to climate change, this. Due to climate change, that. Well, that bad argument kept us from dealing with things sooner and more fully than we could be. But now the argument is changing. And so arguments of omission, ask yourself when you see it, is only one side of the argument being presented? What are the other set of facts? Do I know them? Now, my favorite, or my least favorite, is whataboutism. Whataboutism. So this happens in our classes a lot, right? And we talk about how we can move and shift our consciousness, and inevitably a student will raise their hand and say, yeah, but what about Mary Jo, who had the experience as a child, and her mother and father and brother and then cousin over there is having that experience. What about them? Have we ever done that? Right? Whataboutism. The curse of whataboutism is that it can go on forever. And it's inevitably around extremes or around, and we're going to talk about different things, anecdotal evidence or stories that we've heard that we actually don't even know are true. We're just repeating because somebody else repeated it and that person repeated it from somebody else. When the topic of discussion is whether one person's behavior was bad, and then saying that someone else did something bad does nothing to address the issue at hand. Do you see? Well, what about these people aren't doing it right? When you say these people aren't doing it right, and the counter argument, well, what about when they did that? Or what about when those people did that? Whataboutism. There's so many ways that whataboutism is being used and has been used. Black men are being killed by the police. Well, yeah, but what about black on black crime? It's a completely different conversation, and it's a completely different argument. And arguments that you're going to see a lot of them, the whole point is to change the subject. Both sideism. Okay, both sideism. I've become very aware of this, and I love that there's a name, both sideism. So we want to be careful when we are talking and when we are listening to something or reading something. Both sideism is showing both sides of an argument as if both sides had the same number of people thinking about it, or that both sides carried the same weight. And of course, our media does this because extremism leads. So the other side is often an extreme position which a few people hold, but it's so juicy and it's going to make everybody else so mad that they're going to sell advertising because of it, right? So we also want to be careful that we're not doing this ourselves. The flip side is that it is important to recognize that small minorities have to have a voice. We have to be present to the fact that people who have a different set of opinions also get to be part of the conversation, but not to create fear and confusion and basically knee-jerk reactions. And if there's not enough relevant support, right, then it's just an assertion. We're just asserting that this is okay or not okay, or right? And so what we want to do is to be careful that we're not caught in somebody just asserting something. And our knee-jerk reaction is, that's not true. But if it's not true, actually there's no need to get involved because somebody is just making an assertion. What we want to do is actually start fresh and say what we have to say. Do you see? If I say that's not true because we're now in a both sideism argument, and we can play ping pong all day, can't we? Right? It's why I don't play with Bible quotes. And quote the Bible at me, I'm going to quote it back. But Jesus said, but the Bible says, but then, well, you know what? We can do that all day. Does not change anybody's mind, doesn't really allow for a civil discourse, and it doesn't allow for us to hear another person's point of view or for us to express it from a clean place. Okay, so there are a lot of other, I love this one called the weak man or the weak person argument. It's based on a different kind, which is a straw man argument, which is a terrible argument that nobody really holds, which is only invented so your side can defeat it. Right? So you invent an idea that the other side or whoever you're having a challenge with has, and then you defeat it, even though the other side has never said that. The weak man argument is largely responsible for this perception gap. And it's the perception gap it's particularly in partisan conversations between Republicans and Democrats, especially. This weak man argument is when there is this idea that the other side holds a particular viewpoint and they're wrong for holding it. And the presentation is everybody holds that, right? And so the left and the right are flinging these at each other. But if we just recently, a poll came out, I can't remember, I think it was a Gallup poll came out, 25% of the people in the US are self-identified as Democrats, 25 are self-identified as Republicans. Do you know what the rest of them are identified as? I'm going to vote my conscience. I'm going to vote for what makes sense to me, right? Because extremism isn't the answer. Because we can so easily say, they all think that. Well, they all think that, right? But they've actually done polls to show that if one side thinks the other side is thinking something, when they poll those people, it's actually not that, it's not true. But these are the ways in which things are presented. Always, never, right? Stereotypes, those kinds of blanket things. We have to learn how to question. We have to learn how to question things like the moving of the goalpost. The goalpost is another great argument. Way of presenting an argument where the problem just keeps moving. Well, it wasn't really that, it was this. Well, no, it wasn't really that, it was this. Well, no, it wasn't really that, it was this, right? And if you get involved in that kind of an argument, just stop. That's a bad faith argument. We have to take responsibility for stepping out of these bad faith arguments and simply speaking our truth. Simply sharing what's on our minds, simply letting ourselves and our thoughts be known in a way that doesn't use a bad faith argument. One of the things that I thought was so interesting is anecdotal reasoning, right? We say, well, I don't feel that way. And by implication, we say, well, I don't feel that way, therefore nobody feels that way. Well, anecdotes are important. We need to know how things impact people. And the only way we know that besides statistics is stories. How does it impact you? How does it impact you? How does it impact you? Right? But there's usually a plethora of anecdotes that help us see how something is playing out. But if I take myself as a focus group of one, that's really all I am, is a focus group of one. And so when somebody is presenting that, right, you can see that there's not been thought that perhaps goes beyond, well, I don't feel that way. Well, it doesn't impact me. Well, doesn't have anything to do with my life. Do you see? And so we have many others. Prove the negative. You have to prove the negative, right? So rather than proving something that actually happened, you have to prove that it didn't. Just think about the election a few years ago. Okay, here's my favorite, circular reasoning. Okay, he gives an example of circular reasoning. Just listen to this. I would never make one of these bad arguments. And because I wouldn't make a bad argument, this argument I'm making isn't bad. And I am not a person who makes bad arguments, as evidenced by this argument I'm making, which isn't a bad argument. It's exhausting, right? So circular reasoning is when two claims support one another without using any evidence to support. Right? Shall I read it again? I laughed so hard when I read this. I thought, oh my God, I just so recognize that. So, right? So the point here is for us to pay attention. How is it coming to us? And are we actually exploring? Are we exploring it, examining it, thinking about how it feels, asking ourselves history, context, what's really going on? Is there more information? What does the other side say, but not just in the extreme? Where's my place in all of this? Do you see? I think that we have... Well, part of the problem for me is there's just so much information, I can't think about it all, right? There's so much going on and there's so much information. And so this is why over and over I say, pick your thing. Pick your thing. Pick the thing that speaks to your heart, that resonates with your soul, children's education. Pick your thing, right? Whatever it is. And trust that other people are picking theirs. You don't have to be well-versed in every one of these. But to really make a difference, we have to be well-versed in something, We have to do our work to think about it, think it through. How are we thinking about it? What evidence are we using? How does it feel all the way through? And then, of course, how are we going to speak it truthfully, congruently, without falling into some of these bad arguments? And of course, we all know the worst argument possible is just to start calling people names, because then you know that person has absolutely no evidence, or they're just coming from a knee-jerk reaction. How many of us have wanted to call somebody else names? Right? It's a two-way street. It's not just them, it's also us. Because we want to go back to having coherent civil discourse. It's the only way we're going to find it's the only way we're going to find our way through here, you guys. And we have to lead. And we don't do it by avoiding. We don't do it by avoiding the conversation. We do it by as thoughtfully and as carefully and as reasoned as we can to simply present our side. Do you see, all of these are designed to suck you in and to start arguing about certain pieces of it, and then all of a sudden you're way over here and you're like, wait, but we were talking about that. Don't try to fix it, don't get engaged, but don't not speak. Don't not share your heart, your wisdom, your thoughts about it. Just start new and say, and here's how it lands with me. Here's what my faith teaches me. Here's how I see it. Do you see? And then make sure that you actually have something that you want to share about all of that. Not just anecdotal, not just studies, not just your thought or feeling about it, but a mix of what you've examined that you can present in a coherent fashion. Now, we can begin actually finding the middle ground, or seeing where we have common ground, or seeing where maybe we just say, I simply believe that that is not the way to go. That doesn't make you a bad and horrible and wrong person. I simply believe that is not the way to go. This is the way I believe we have to move forward. So, yeah. Every spiritual mind treatment we do is helping us find a firmer place to stand about what we believe. We want to take that very same skill into our work in the world. I don't know whether this is in any way inspiring to you. I hope that it's enlightening, and I hope it makes you question and examine. Why am I responding this way? Did this person want me to respond this way? What's being agitated in this article? What do I really think about this? And ultimately, as we said in our democracy and advocacy training, what can I do to engage so that we can raise the consciousness out of this polarized, divisive place that we're in right now? We have the tools, you guys. We have the tools. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Because we need it, and we need you. Thanks.
Thank you, Dr. Petra. Now let's all show our support for this beloved community. We invite you to give generously to the work of CSL Dallas, knowing that as you give, the law of circulation multiplies that gift to you and to so many others. Let's begin by affirming our abundance together on screen. Today, I am conscious that there is infinite wisdom directing me. I know the universe is always bringing complete abundance into my life. Infinite abundance flows into our community. CSL Dallas is an outlet of immeasurable good. We declare that freedom and joy are ours today. And so it is. I really encourage y'all to do that because even $1 or $30 you will see it circulate back to you directly, or you can see it here in the community. Thank you. There are many ways to give. Text giving, Venmo, PayPal, auto tithing, or use the basket being passed around. Pick which option works best for you. Every Sunday, you can receive direct spiritual support from one of our licensed spiritual coaches. These sessions are free and take place in person and online immediately after the celebration. If you're on campus, head to the Peace Room. For those of you online, the link is being posted in the chat for you right now. Join via Zoom, excuse me. You can also fill out the spiritual support request form and place it in the wooden box at the back of the sanctuary. I believe this is it. Oh, spiritual request form. All right. And this is also the Connect card too. Sorry. Okay. Calling all sinners from spiritual living for spiritual living members. This is a virtual gathering designed for you. Registration is now open for One Heart, the first ever gathering presented by the CSL Member Council, an active group that supports and represents members from all CSLs worldwide. This 2-day virtual event is designed to connect you with the greater CSL community and provide a deep dive into practical applications of Science of Mind principles. With world-class speakers, musicians, and facilitators, this spirit-filled gathering will enrich, motivate, and entertain you as we unite globally as CSL Dallas members, excuse me. Register now via csl.org or secure your spot and receive a complimentary 3-month digital subscription to the Science of Mind magazine. There is still time to sponsor a Gooch Elementary Scholar. Our goal is to support 100 lower-income families with brand new uniforms for their kids. And your donation is a meaningful way to directly support their education and experience at school. Visit the welcome table in Pankey Hall to make your donation or click the link being posted in the chat now. Now let's close our time together with our amazing music team.